Today we tell the story of a terrible attack that took place in a store. We will discuss what the victim had to endure and how a confession was made years later. Additionally, we narrate the story of another girl who mysteriously disappeared after leaving her home to go to church. Brace yourselves. We're stepping into the crime scene now.
I don't know. Maybe,
We are going to Laurel, Montana, a tiny town home to 7,000 residents. Miranda Colleen Fenner was born on December 26, 1979 in Sacramento. Mike and Sherry Fenner had 2 children, Miranda, the oldest, and Tim, her younger brother. At age 11, Miranda and her family relocated to Laurel, Montana, marking her departure from her hometown and childhood friends. Miranda adjusted quickly to her new environment. She went to Laurel High School and made amazing new friends. After graduating in 1998, she got a job at a video rental store called Charming, just a quick walk away from home. At work, Miranda happily greeted customers and was always helpful. Even though she enjoyed the job, life had different plans. On the night of November 15, 1998, around 8 p.m., the Laurel Police Department got a call. A passerby, who noticed someone hastily leaving the video store and heard a plea for help, alerted the police. Upon arrival, they found a woman, bloodied and surrounded by 3 individuals outside the store. She was hurt and unconscious, with only a faint pulse showing she was still alive. Doctors were called urgently. The police found the store a mess, with bloodstains revealing that Miranda had tried to reach the front door. Later that night, the hospital reported tragic news, announcing that Miranda had passed away due to her injuries. Following this terrible event, investigators began an intensive search for the culprit. Hundreds were questioned, and investigators followed every lead. However, they were unable to identify the suspect as no one with a motive against the victim was found. On the day of the incident, some money was missing from the store's cash register, hinting at a potential robbery motive. Sadly, days passed with no progress made in the investigation, leaving the team feeling disappointed and disheartened. Undeterred, Miranda's family took action. They made flyers with her picture, shared her story, and spread it nationwide, always searching for justice. In July 2000, the Dawson County Police received a tip about a potential suspect, but this lead was later disproven. In 2006, Miranda's mother, Sherry, went on a psychic talk show and shared her daughter's story. On the talk show, Sherry suggested that the culprits, possibly 2 individuals familiar with the store, could be family acquaintances. Although Sherry was skeptical of the medium, her appearance on the show was helpful. Many viewers called and wrote to her. Sherry gave all the information she got to the investigators on Miranda's case, but they found nothing significant. Beverly Saylor came to the police in October 2013 and claimed to have important information about the murder. According to Beverly Saylor, Zachary O'Neal, her ex-husband's stepson, was involved in Miranda's murder. She portrayed him as a violent person. She said her stepson was in Montana on the night of the murder. He rented a movie from the video store and left shortly after the murder. Detectives investigated Zachary but found no evidence linking him to the killing. The investigation hit another dead end. Multiple individuals confessed to the police about murdering Miranda. However, the confessions were untrue, causing investigators to waste time. In April 2016, Zachary O'Neal, who was in a psychiatric clinic in Washington, made a surprising admission. At first, investigators did not believe Zachary's admission since it included known details. Zachary also confessed to an additional attempted murder. On March 19, 2017, Zachary went to the police station again. He wanted to talk to investigators. Zachary confessed again, talked about murders he committed in the past, and expressed frustration that he hadn't been taken seriously before. Zachary told the story of when he returned to Laurel in May 1998. He was 18 and living with his father, David. On the day of the killing, he told his mother he was going to rent a movie and then went to the store. After selecting a movie and returning home, an incident occurred where his mother, displeased with his choice, angrily demanded he return it. Later, Zachary went back to the store, waited for the other clients to leave, and ultimately made the decision to rob the store. He demanded money from Miranda, who gave it to him to avoid trouble. However, Zachary, who was feeling distracted and unreasonably anxious, took Miranda to the back room. At first, he considered tying her up and running away. However, he became worried that she might identify him, so he decided to cut her throat. During a police encounter in Glendive, Montana, where Zachary's car was stopped, a shootout ensued, injuring an officer and resulting in the suspect's death. This individual's death in the shootout led to fresh rumors about his possible involvement in Miranda's murder. Zachary cried while he talked about hearing Miranda make choking sounds in her own blood. He said that since losing his half-brother in 2013, he has felt guilty, sad, and hopeless. Zachary couldn't handle it anymore, so he decided to tell the truth and confess. Later, he contacted the police. Zachary O'Neal was charged with Miranda's murder and admitted to all of the charges. Zachary's sentencing hearing was scheduled for the next month, and he agreed to stay in Montana until then. Defense attorney Chris Copenhaver emphasized Zachary's addiction history and his progress since admitting guilt. Zachary O'Neal received 3 life sentences and can only apply for parole after serving a minimum of 30 years. He also admitted to trying to murder and rape a woman in September 1998. Miranda Fenner's case was finally resolved thanks to Zachary's confessions. Justice was eventually served years later. If he hadn't confessed, the case may have gone unsolved. Before we dive into our next story, if you could take a moment to hit that like button, it would mean the world to us. A single click for you is a huge boost of encouragement for us. We go to Marpletown, Pennsylvania, USA. Gretchen Harrington was born on June 13, 1967, in Marple. Her parents were Harold Boyd and Ina Harrington, and she had 3 siblings. Harold Harrington, her father, was a priest who served in the church in Marple. On August 15, 1975, 8-year-old Gretchen Harrington began her day early to go to Bible school. Normally, she went with her older sister, but on that particular day, her sister stayed home to take care of their younger siblings. At around 9 a.m., Gretchen left her house carrying a Bible. She walked alone down the street. The other children arrived at the campsite at 9:30 a.m., where they started their day with a structured morning exercise session. Another priest supervised the children, but Gretchen was missing. Around 10:30 a.m., they took the kids from the campsite to the church. Harold couldn't find his daughter and began to worry. He asked David if Gretchen had attended her morning workout. David replied that Gretchen hadn't shown up that day. The Harrington and Zanstra families had a close relationship, as they were both neighbors and colleagues. One of the Zanstra daughters was a very close friend of Gretchen's. David quickly contacted the Marple police and launched a search. As the sun set, the Harrington family faced a harsh reality. Ina, their mother, thought she would never see her daughter again. The town of Marple was shocked by the sudden disappearances. People panicked, and hundreds helped in the search. The search included helicopters from the Pennsylvania State Police. They searched the area non-stop, looking for any signs of Gretchen. The people, who were volunteers and members of the church searching for Gretchen, said the incident deeply affected the town. They also felt that their community was no longer safe. In the wake of the disappearance, the community's fear was palpable. For instance, Karen's mother, once Gretchen's schoolmate, dramatically changed her daughter's appearance with a short, boyish haircut. To avoid drawing attention, Karen's mother discontinued her piano lessons and swimming club activities, both of which Karen attended solo. 2 days after Gretchen vanished, the police announced that they had stopped their extensive searches due to limited clues from their investigation. The police chief told the local newspaper that there were no clues. He stated that the search teams had found no useful evidence. In the weeks after Gretchen's disappearance, the police questioned camp counselors, students, and parents to investigate the incident. Valuable information was gathered. Witnesses reported that on the day of the occurrence, a dark, open car had stopped in front of the church, and the driver had spoken to Gretchen. Additionally, a neighboring student church group had been in the area for 45 days. Their daily routine was interrupted when small shorts were found on a fence post on August 19th. This discovery took the investigations in a new direction. The shorts were assumed to belong to Gretchen, but it was reported that she had not arrived at the camp on that day. As a result, it was suspected that the shorts may not belong to Gretchen. There was another suspicious incident that caught the attention of investigators. David Zanstra reported Gretchen missing, and the police suspected foul play. David described Gretchen as an 8-year-old girl with blonde hair in a ponytail. She was wearing dark blue shorts with buttons on both sides and no visible buttons. David's description was quite detailed for someone who hadn't seen Gretchen that day. It was questioned why David knew so much about the shorts. Everyone suspected him. However, David denied seeing Gretchen on that day or having any involvement in her disappearance. Ridley Creek State Park was roughly 20 minutes from Gretchen's home. 2 months later, a jogger in the park found human skeletal remains. At first, the jogger was unsure of what they had found. He saw a nail and told the park wardens. After the family was informed, they confirmed that the clothes belonged to Gretchen, recognizing them as hand-knitted by her mother. The medical examiner used dental records to confirm that the body was Gretchen's. Gretchen was murdered by blows to the head, and it was determined to be the cause of death. Although the police suspected a sexual assault, an autopsy found no evidence of it. On the day Gretchen's body was discovered, her father Harold gave a moving sermon at the church. He proclaimed that Gretchen found liberation through her faith, while the unknown criminal remained burdened by unspoken truths. After the incident, some witnesses came forward. Some provided valuable information, but others were not helpful. The investigators looked into several potential suspects, including sex offenders, but no progress was made in the case. What happened to Gretchen on that day remained a mystery for years. Eventually, the case went cold. Joanna Falcon Sullivan was just 9 when Gretchen was murdered in Marple, the town where Joanna grew up. Nurturing the ambition to become a renowned journalist, Joanna eventually achieved this dream. She wrote a book about the true crime of Gretchen's murder. She had wanted to write it for several years, since the incident had deeply affected her childhood. She started writing the novel during the pandemic. Her novel, titled The Tragedy of Gretchen Harrington, came out in October 2022. Following its release, a woman read the book and reached out to Marple police. She wanted to discuss Gretchen, stating that she might have information about the incident. Residing a mere 5 kilometers from Marple, she shared an alarming story of a 10-year-old girl's attempted kidnapping in the area, a revelation that added another layer of intrigue to the case. She kept diaries with information about these events. This information caught the attention of Police Chief Coffin, who then contacted the Marple police to investigate. The woman's information brought this cold case back to life, and she provided additional details. She revealed that she was good friends with Gretchen and Zoe Harrington and was acquainted with Mara and Kristen. David Zanstra's daughters. According to her, she frequently visited David Zanstra's house. When she was 10, she spent a night there, during which some traumatizing events unfolded. She woke up in the middle of the night and found priest David inappropriately touching her. She quickly moved and David left the room in a panic. The next morning, the girls were struck by David's bizarre and disconcerting demeanor towards his daughter, raising further suspicions about his character. His daughter asked him why he had done it, but David's wife calmly replied, "He does that sometimes." The girl who was visiting reported the events to her parents. They found the situation disturbing and decided not to allow her to stay at their home anymore. The incident in question occurred just a week before Gretchen disappeared. According to a confidential informant, there is a girl named Holly residing in their vicinity who was the target of a kidnapping attempt. State troopers took action and began investigating David Zanstra. They discovered he now lived in Georgia. They visited David's home in Marietta, Georgia, to discuss the Gretchen case. David consented to meet at the police station. On July 17, investigators interrogated David. He denied all involvement in the event. The police brought up allegations regarding his actions towards his daughter and her friends. Ultimately, David clarified that he intended to drive Gretchen from the campground to the church that morning. He admitted to luring the girl into his car under false pretenses, then taking her to an isolated area in the woods, marking the beginning of a chilling sequence of events. When they arrived, he told her to take off her clothes, but she said she wanted to go home. After she refused, he assaulted her. He hit her head multiple times, and she became unable to move. He checked her pulse, confirmed she was deceased, and then placed her in the car. He left the partly clothed body of the girl in the forest. Leveraging his close ties with the Harrington family, he meticulously maintained his usual routine to deflect suspicion. He was aware that drawing attention would be risky. David Zanstra was apprehended in Georgia on July 17, 2023, and incarcerated without bail. A DNA sample was collected from David for potential use in missing persons and sexual assault situations across the nation. The DA, Jack Stolzheimer, said that this was every parent's worst fear. He said that this awful incident destroyed a family and permanently altered a community. The Christian Reformed Church expresses sadness regarding the detainment of a minister. They noted that violence is possible anywhere, including houses of worship. Mr. Stolzheimer declared that this kind of behavior cannot be tolerated. David Zanstra's wife, Margaret Zanstra, chose not to comment after her husband's arrest. Gretchen's father, Harold, died in 2021 at age 94, without knowing that his daughter's killer was actually his priest friend. The authorities report that David served in several churches over a 40-year span and resided in California, Texas, and Georgia. They claimed this man was often near children. They cautioned there could be additional victims of his assaults and requested that anyone with information come forward. Before we conclude this video, please be aware that the video on the left may be disturbing. It is recommended for adult viewing only. On the right, you'll find a playlist of videos that have been highly appreciated by our viewers.